Today we're going to be going over 3 situations where a car is going to pull out in front of a motorcyclist. And in these 3 situations, there's going to be different outcomes and there's going to be different reactions. And this is exactly what I want us to go over. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one and learn what we should be doing. And the second and third one, kind of a mixed bag. You're situationally aware and utilizing the color code chart and being prepared for any type of situation that could possibly happen, it's going to look like this. It's going to look very uneventful. It's not even going to look like it's a real thing, but typically this is what happens, and a lot of people react a lot differently in these types of situations. But this rider did a great job, was situationally aware, and was able to utilize very fundamental physical skills. And what he did was all you have to do. So let's go ahead and go through what happened here, okay? So it's not going to be something crazy. There's not a lot that's going to happen that we really need to focus on. So right away, what we see is we have this vehicle sitting right here. Now, it's pretty hard to see because of the hedges and very poor line of sight for the driver over here, and then also for the rider. So you're not going to be able to see very much, but just that little bit that's peeking out, that should put you into orange stage. And in orange stage, you're not really like, paranoid. You're not doing anything crazy. You're still having a great time. It's just that you recognized a hazardous situation. Intersections and curves are hazardous situations. Since he recognized that, he is absolutely prepared. Look, he has his left hand on the clutch, which will remove power from the rear wheel just in case he has to apply braking pressure, so he doesn't really stall it out or lug. He's able to utilize the friction zone to get back into the mode. He's rev matching. He's doing everything he has to do, and he's prepped. So about right here, that's super quick. See, this is his perception time. So we have the perception time, reaction time, and then braking distance that is going to coincide with the total stopping distance. So about right here is when he perceives that there is a threat, there is a hazard. So he was already in orange stage prior to this event, and he was prepped and ready for it. So as soon as he perceives it, it's going to take just a few frames, and that is the reaction time, the moment you reach your hand over. Now, one thing that you could do, I guess to a little improve on this one, is just like he had his hand hovering over that clutch lever, maybe have your hand hovering over the brake lever to remove those few frames, that half a second to a full second having to reach over, so that way you remove the reaction time. You just basically have perception and then go time. So he just did his perception and reaction time. Now we're going to move into the braking distance, which is going to be the total stopping distance. Now right here we have quite a bit of room. Now, do we have to stop completely? No, we don't. You don't have to stop completely in situations that are dynamic like this. You have to stop completely if there's a cliff on the edge. You can't just keep rolling past. But in this situation, since it's dynamic and this car driver wants to get around and get into the lane over here, you can just decelerate just a little bit, either rolling off the throttle or applying a little bit of brake pressure. So what he does right here is he applies brake pressure and he starts to roll off the throttle a little bit. In the original video, you hear the RPMs raise up. That's because he has the clutch in and he's probably doing about a quarter, maybe 1/3, maybe even a half of a throttle. So you're going to hear it rev up, but the thing that he does really well is that he releases it slowly to the friction zone so that it can catch up and match, and then he can just go on with his day. So he's going to move forward just a little bit. There's about like half throttle, and he's not rev bombing these people. He really isn't. He's just getting back into the mode that he needs to get to. As you can tell by now with the clutch lever, it's released possibly to about 4. So it's fully squeezed in. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 is released. So he has, instead of all the way pulled in to 5, he has it at 4, maybe 3.5, which is fine because now he's in the friction zone with this RPM range. So he's going to go ahead and move forward, and that's it. That's all you have to do. I don't want to spend too much time on this one because it was a really good job, and I really want to focus on the other 2 where there was a failure in some of this aspect. So let's go ahead and jump into those and make sure that we utilize this video as a good example of what we should be doing. I just realized that we're going to be talking about a crash, and the YouTube algorithm is not going to be very supportive of that. So what I'm going to be doing is sponsoring my own video. And guys, if you want to know what to do, how to start, or what type of gear to get, or anything when it comes to motorcycle related stuff, I do have an ebook just for you. It is the Beginner's Guide to Motorcycle Riding. So I'm going to be sponsoring my own video, so make sure you check out the link in the description. Patrons get 50% off. So if you become a $2 patron, you still get 50% off. With that said, let's jump into this one. So right away we have these riders riding relatively fast, maybe for the conditions, but not for the road speed limit. I'm not too sure, but that's not the biggest deal here. The biggest deal here is that we have a car that wants to come into our path of travel, and this is an intersection. So just like the previous video, when you see an intersection, go into that orange stage and get ready for any type of hazards. If there's a hazard that's present, you need to utilize the red stage, which is going to be really good fundamental motorcycle evasive skills, so like braking or swerving. So what's going to happen here is he's going to go ahead and swerve as much as he possibly can, but it's not going to be enough. So once again, you need to put yourself in a position to where you are slowed down before the turn, or you remove some of the reaction time, the reaction of having to reach for that front brake or swerve by slowing down. That way you can get prepared for this type of stuff. So he's going to go ahead and crash, and we're going to move forward a little bit. So about right here, he's going to realize, oh crap, something is going to happen to me. I need to utilize my brakes. That is the brake lights right there. And then about right here is when, oh crap, I'm not stopping in time. I must swerve. Either way, it's going to be too late for both of those evasive maneuvers. The whole point of situational awareness is to prevent the incident itself, or to look far enough ahead with situational awareness to understand that something could happen. So I'm going to go ahead and be prepared by slowing down a little bit. So I'm already going to be covering my brakes. I'm already getting prepped for my swerving if I absolutely have to. And I'm also slowing down so I can buy myself different options. That's the whole point of situational awareness. And if all things fail, or if you have to utilize some of those options, that's when you go into red stage and you do something. So right here, there's just not enough prep time for any of this stuff. The rider to the right here was able to move off to the right. The rider in the front was not able to do that, and he was actually pretty injured when it comes to this. When I say pretty injured, when I look at mechanism of injury on this one, luckily, I don't think he hit his leg. I think the bike took the impact, so there was no direct impact to the body itself. So now we just have torsion type of injuries. So your organs are moving around, possibly your brain is sloshing around inside your skull, and then maybe skier's thumb. So when you have your hands on the handlebars and you go forward like that, it's going to bend your thumb, possibly break some ligaments and tendons in there, maybe even a bone. And I think that's kind of what we see here. So once again, make sure you wear full gear. You know, just in case all these things fail, you need to have full protective gear. And that's the whole point of the Smart Rider system. And I want you guys to start following some of these things, and I'll be talking more about that in future videos. So we're going to be moving forward a little bit, and he's going to go ahead and drop. And that's going to be all sides. So you're going to have shoulder, elbow, hip, and then your hands were put out type of impacts, and then the side of your head. And every single one of those points that I talked about has armor in it, and that's for impact protection. So we're going to move forward just a little bit more. So now this is going to be a slow motion portion, and that's where he's landed. So typically that's what I would see. He lands on the side. Once again, that's where you're going to have your injuries. So moving forward a little bit, that right there, that white tissue, that's not necessarily going to be always bone. Ligaments and tendons are pretty much white. There's no blood flow with that type of stuff. You know, it's sinew, so it's just not going to show up. So that could definitely be just a tendon, because there's a lot of tendons in your fingers, pretty much no muscles in your fingers. If you guys never knew that, it's all tendons and bones and ligaments. So that's more than likely what that is, or it could be bone too, but either way, it's probably from putting the hands down and then it just snapping. But once again, full gear, it's going to minimize and mitigate the severity of incidents, but it's not going to prevent everything. So even with the gloves, that could easily happen too. That looks like it's just more so planting in the ground and then snapping that way. So it's the same thing with putting your leg down and putting your foot down, having it plant, and then your body keeps moving. It's going to break some bones even if you have full gear on. Make sure you wear full gear, and realize that intersections, once again, are in a dangerous spot. You need to be able to go into orange stage, red stage as quickly as possible, and the best way you can do that is to be fully prepared and understanding that intersections are definitely an orange stage, and I need to get ready for it just in case, okay? So this one, he got injured a little bit. Hopefully he's not going to be too bad. It didn't look like it's too bad. A hand injury, it still sucks, but I'd rather take that than have a concussion or a brain injury. So this was a lot like the first video where somebody pulls out in front of them. Now, it wasn't from a side street, it was from a left turning vehicle, which is going to be one of the most deadly and dangerous things for motorcyclists, intersections. And this is exactly what happens all the time. We just had a fatality up here in Tucson, Arizona, and it sucks. It really does suck, and it happens all the time. So I'm trying to prevent that for you guys. I really want you guys to see this ahead of time. So we're going to be moving forward a little bit. Now, in this area, I'm assuming that, I mean, traffic signals in different countries, different cultures, different everything. What I utilize is the knowledge that I have in the United States, and then from what I've seen in these videos. From what my understanding is that it starts off red, it goes yellow, and then it goes green. It's a little bit different here in the United States. So about right here is when it's saying, hey, it's about time for, it's about to be green. So now we got a green light. So we are already accelerating, trying to get to that intersection when it is in this stage, basically. That is not what we should be doing. Remember, intersections are dangerous. We should be cautiously aware of them, and we should be in orange stage, especially if we see this hazardous situation where there's a car in the left turn lane. Now, if we try to make that light, maybe this person also wants to make that light. Now, who's wrong, who's right, it doesn't matter. Our safety is our responsibility, and the law of tonnage says that if I crash into this person, they're going to win 100 out of 100 times. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do what I need to do to create my own safety. We're on the bottom of the food chain, everybody, so make sure we realize that. So don't accelerate into an area like this when it's definitely a hazardous zone. And yes, you do have the green light, but at the end of the day, you could possibly be severely injured, life-altering, or dead. And it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's green light or not. So once again, when we get to this situation, very close call. There was no real deceleration. There was no swerving. We stayed in the same lane position. We just got extremely lucky. And when that happens, when we have a close call, our anger and our emotions come into play, especially if it was one of those situations where I'm right and this should never have happened and it's your fault. Typically, this is the reaction of, this is your fault. If it's the reaction of, maybe I shouldn't have done that, are you going to look into a mirror and flip yourself off? No, you're going to just kind of chalk it up to not a big deal. So guys, chalk it up to a learning lesson. If they were the ones causing some type of issue for you, but maybe you didn't see it, then realize, yeah, it's a learning lesson. Or if it was, hey, this is my fault and I shouldn't have done that, you were in the right, then chalk it up to a learning lesson. So either way, chalk every single one of these things into a learning lesson. That's the whole point of these videos. We're not here to crap on anybody. We're not here to make fun of anybody. We're here to learn from every single situation and turn it into a lesson. So once again, if you would like to get that ebook, please do so. It's going to support the channel because this video is probably going to get demonetized because I just said that word. And then on top of that, we're talking about a crash and some dangerous stuff. So with that said, hope you guys ride safe, be safe, and check out the other videos off to the left side of your screen.